Okay, tonight we're talking about understanding, preparing, and presenting the listing. And then I think I put on your little Facebook thing, take that listing every time. So we want you to be able to go out there with confidence, with clarity, and be able to move forward in your listing presentations. So the objectives are we're going to share preparing for the appointment, what you're going to take with you, that you need to know your presentation, feel comfortable, have that clarity. Talk about seller's motivation first. We're going to talk about pricing, marketing, and asking for the business. We're going to show you some of the things that you need to do so you can honestly say you did your homework, you know those market statistics, and you're comfortable showing that seller exactly what this home should be priced at. Talk about a net sheet and be sure you know the value, your value added that's included in the marketing. So here's a listing checklist. I have this. I'm pretty sure it's on your Facebook account. So if you go in there under files, you should be able to pull the seller's checklist. If you don't find it, send me a text and I'll add it. We've added a lot of things in there as far as systems to help you take the listing and be able to prospect, use Land Voice, and move forward in your business with these systems. So the things you want to take a contract with you, exclusive right to sell. What I would suggest is after you've done your homework, you have that exclusive right to sell contract filled out. Now, how I do it today in coaching, we had several of the agents do their listing presentation, and there was a couple of different ideas about what they do in the little blank where you fill in the price. What I personally do with that is I leave it blank. So whatever you decide to do is okay. I type the rest of the contract up. I leave that blank. That is my first close with the sellers when I'm talking to them about listing their home. So after I've gone through everything, and we're going to show you in the presentation where you're going to present the contract, but after I've gone through all that, I'll pull the contract out for them to sign with that left blank. I go through it, and when I get down to the price, explaining the contract, when I get to the price, I look at them and say, you're smart. I've gone through this pricing. What do you feel like your home is worth? And I wait for them to answer. The first person that talks loses. So it's really important that you wait for them. This is my first closing with them. If they tell me 225 and I told them the home was worth, 225, or if they say we want 235, we know you said it's 225, then you'll see they'll start to justify and talk themselves down because you've explained to them the market statistics. You've shown them the seller's net sheet, and they're going to understand exactly why they can't overprice it. If they don't, we're going to show you a slide to go back to in the listing presentation that reiterates what happens if you don't price your house at market value. So once we decide on the price and we've gone back and forth with that, we write that in the blank on the contract. You have them initial, date, and time that. And the reason you do that is the rest of the contract is typed out, neat, everything looks the same. This is going to be handwritten in ink, so it's different than the rest of the contract. The same thing happens as John was sharing today, and one of the things he does, he goes ahead and puts the price in there. Neither one is right or wrong. It's however you feel comfortable. So he types it in there, then he's got his little thing that he says to them. If they decide on a different price, then he marks that out. You still have to initial, date, and time when you did that because it's above their signatures. The next thing I take is because AHS is a partner with Keller Williams, I take an AHS protection plan and I go through that and explain it to them. We have those in the office and you can pick up a copy and you can leave it with them and let them look at it and they can decide. When I'm filling the contract out, I go ahead and mark that they're going to add a protection plan. And I think if you understand this right and explain it right when you're going through the presentation, most people will agree with you. I'm going to touch on that for just a second. If you're talking to them about AHS home protection, as far as the seller has the same benefits as the buyer without paying anything if they put that in their contract that they're going to offer a home protection plan. So if they have an electrical problem, they can go through AHS. They'll send out an electrician. They'll work on the electrical problem. They will pay the same deductible as the buyer would pay. Now, you might ask what happens if they get a contract, they negotiate, and because they didn't offer full price or they ask for something different, you decided not, or the seller decided not to put the protection plan in there, they still don't have to pay for it. Only if it's full price, everything's agreed upon, then they've got to add the home protection plan in there. And then I have a title company discussion, whatever title company you're going to use. And they're making some changes in our ARA. I'm not going to go over that right now because we don't have time. The little paragraph that talks about combo title insurance. But you, whoever you're using, whoever's your team, and whoever you're going to work with on the buyer side, you need to have a discussion about the title company, what they do for you, how they're going to research the title, what it's going to cost them to sell. Great place to have that is right here. And then the seller's net sheet. You're going to explain to them, you're going to take one in. I usually take a high, a low, and an average. These also are on our Facebook page under files. We've got a couple of different ones in there, and Brandy actually redid this for us. So you've got a side-by-side and an Excel sheet that is form-filled. All you've got to do is answer a couple of questions, and everything for you is filled out in that seller's net sheet. So I challenge you to go in there and fill out a few of them. If you've got some questions, then text me or call me, and we will do this again in another training. But those are in there, and they're simple. They're Excel forms. Got like a high, a low, and an average. You've also got another tab on there that, excuse me, another tab on there that's just a single sheet. So if you only want a high, a low, and an average or medium, then you only want to take one of those. Why would you only want to take one? If you were going into a home and you had this printed out, you wanted to show one sheet, so you want to print one at a time instead of showing all three of them, you may get in and think that from what they told you, this house is in tip-top condition. You get there and the carpet's been eaten up by big dogs that they've had in there, and some of the walls have holes in them, the paint's bad, then you definitely do not want to pull out a high price per square foot sheet and go over the price that you're going to suggest to them. So the seller's net sheet, never, ever, ever go on a listing appointment without a seller's net sheet. That is extremely important, because one of the most important things to that seller when you're working through all this is not just what you're going to do to sell it, but the most important thing is how much money are they going to make? What are the proceeds that they can make from the sale of their home? Another thing is depends on the age of the home. If the age of the home is before June of 1978, then you want to take a lead-based paint disclosure that needs to be filled out. Seller's property disclosure, always take that. This works really good if you're going to take a pre-listing package, to go ahead and drop that off and ask them to fill that out. That's not a form that is mandated by AREC, but it is a form that our company wants put in there. And I would say 99% of the contracts out there are going to ask you for a seller's property disclosure. A mortgage information sheet. If you want to take that and get permission to be able to talk to their mortgage company, then you can take that. That's really not something you have to have. Generally, in today's market, the mortgage people, as long as they tell you, they'll send them something and they can sign off on that. Residential real estate contract for the buyer. The reason you want to take this on a listing presentation is because everything we have is digital today. All the signings are through Form Simplicity or dot loop. So you take this residential real estate contract and ask them for their permission to go over that with them while you're on the listing presentation. So when you get a contract in, they're going to be familiar with the paragraphs. They're going to understand what's in the blanks. You're going to be able to email that, give them a phone call, have them pull it up, and you'll be able to go over it without sitting there and explaining all the paragraphs and all the blanks. Just you're going to be able to run through that contract much easier. So I would explain those. This is a great time for you to talk to them about the buyer and their inspection, about how they're going to respond to an inspection repair, the things that they're going to put on that seller's property disclosure, how important it is to disclose everything and be sure and put that they've fixed it and there's no additional problems that's happened since they fixed that. Next thing is the MLS input sheet, and you can find this on Matrix over in the input sheets. It's over there on the right. So you go and take, I guess it's on the right. It's on the right on mine. You can move those little squares around, but you get your input sheet off there. You want to take this because you'll forget when you get back to your office if they had zoned heat and air, if they had architectural shingles, you're just going to forget some of those things. So it's much easier to run through it and mark them as you're sitting there in front of them. And then know the square footage. We're going to talk about that as we get through this presentation. Home inspectors, you need to have several home inspectors that you can refer to them, have a list that you can refer to them. You definitely want to be able to share with them, these are the people that are on my team. These are the reasons that I would put these people. You want a home inspector that's going to go in there and find everything. You don't want one that's going to skimp over it, but you also want a home inspector that's not going to just give their opinions. I've had so many of them come in and actually kill the deal because they didn't know how to deal with the buyer. So you want someone that's going to find everything, and you want to tell your buyer and you want to tell your homeowner at that point, do not be insulted over the things that are going to come back. We're going to work through these things. Some home inspectors put, all these nail heads on the roof that need to be caulked, and so many different, they go into kicks of putting so many different things. So explain to your homeowner that these can come back. You won't have to fix all of them, and you have the right to not fix any of them if you don't want to, and we'll put the house back on the market. Explain to the buyer that you're going to get a big, long list of things from this home inspector sometimes. That doesn't mean that all of those things have to be fixed. You are paying a home inspector to find everything possibly that could be wrong with that home and show them so they can make a good buying decision on whether to buy it or whether not to buy it. Then you're going to go have a contract to close. Again, I have the contract to close list. It should be on our Facebook and our files. This is the list that you're going to go down and show them exactly what's going to happen. This is part of your value added. That list is long, and I can promise you that most sellers have no idea the language or what any of it means as you walk down through that list with them of things that you're going to take care of them. And then last on this list, take something with showing instructions so you can fill that out. Explain to them that their home needs to be show ready as soon as we put it on the market, and that our 800 number customer service is going to call them and ask them if so-and-so can show your house, and they're going to give them the hours. And so that showing instructions you're going to take from them, you want their phone number, who they're going to contact. If they don't get someone, is it okay to go ahead and show the house? So be sure and be accurate with those instructions, because they're going to be important as far as what you're going to get back in showing. Okay, let's move into the market presentation, or this is your listing presentation. If you want to change market consultation, if that doesn't feel good to you and you want to put listing presentation up there, that's great. This is the first page. I would suggest that you personalize this. Again, John did his today and Mark did his. Mark used this one straight through, and that's okay if you're okay with that. But some of the things you can do, you can change the background. You can make it a different color. You can use a different PowerPoint design when you go in there. You can also, in the left-hand corner, put your picture up here and put it in there. Another thing I like to see is all these can be personalized unless you're doing a PDF, but you may want to go in here and where it says Keller Williams Market Pro Realty and put market consultation and put 4 and put their name on there. Another thing is, if you don't want your picture up there, personalize this for them. If you've got a picture, if you ran out there and took a picture with your phone, save it, pull the picture of their house in here and personalize this presentation to them. It looks like you're interested in their business. Okay, this is the second sheet. One of 3 things can happen today. You will decide to list your property with me. You will decide not to list your property with me. We may decide it's not the best time to list your home. Any of these 3 will be okay. A lot of times on this slide, they'll stop and they'll say, why in the world would you decide that it's not the best time? Now, this wording I've got, we may decide it's not the best time to list your home. That's what I put in mine, and that's what I like. Some agents are just plain, I may decide not to take your listing. It makes them think. I don't care what you use in there, whatever makes you feel better. I usually say, we decide it's not the best time to list your home. Again, I'm reiterating that they're going to be involved in this with me, and we're going to be a team. So whatever you're comfortable with, make this your listing presentation. And if they ask you, well, why in the world would you decide not to take or not to list my home? All you have to answer is because as we go through our contracts and as we go through our discussion, if there's something contractually that you and I cannot agree on, then it's not going to be in either one of us our best interest to list your property. And that's going to be okay with you, because what I understand is what happens the next time. Our goal is to sell your home in the least amount of time, making you the most money with the least amount of stress. So if we can't agree contractually on what's happening, those three things are not going to happen. Three important issues that we're going to consider today. Now, some of you may, this is called pre-qualifying, you may pre-qualify before you go. If you do, that's okay. So your motivation to sell your home. Say you and I talked about on the phone before I came over here that you and your husband were moving to Dallas. He's being transferred with his company. And with that said, he's got to leave now. You're ready to go quickly is from what the conversation that we had. Has anything changed or am I correct? Ask them that question. The second thing we're going to talk about, extremely important, one of the most important things that we're going to talk about on this webinar is the price we set on your home. And the price that we set on your home is extremely important because we're going to talk about market value, how we came to that, but everything is going to fall back on price. If your home is showed a whole lot and we don't get any offers, then it's going to be price. If it's not shown very much and we don't get any offers, it's going to be price. If it's not shown at all, it's going to be price. It is always going to go back to the price. And in class one time we said, so what would be a reason it didn't sell? Price came up number one, just like it is. Somebody else said location. What I want you to think about is if it is location, if it's in a location that you're getting a lesser price on the homes, it's still price. So when you are looking at the market considers the location. It's extremely important. So understand that number one, we're going to talk about your motivation to sell your home. Really important to you and I both that we understand and pre-qualifying, are you ready to sell your home? This would be a great place for you to stop and ask the question we talked about in bold. If everything that I go over with you tonight is correct and you agree with it, are you ready to list your home with me? You may get the objections, you may not get an objection at this point. The most important thing is number one, we talk about motivation first in here. The second thing we talk about is the price. And before we move to marketing, then before you move on to your marketing, you're going to make sure that they're okay with their motivation. They're not just putting it on there to see what happens. If you're okay with putting it on there to see what happens, then take the listing. You're going to know their motivation. The second thing is if you can't agree on the price, you don't want to waste your time in even going over the marketing of your home. That's why you do them in that order. And then your move. This is another slide that you probably have already talked to them before you get on there, but if you hadn't, it's going to be really important that you know, where do you plan on moving? How soon do you have to be there? A lot of times you ask these and your pre-qualifying scripts are in your scripts when you're even trying to list the property or to get the appointment. How soon do you have to be there? Have you considered what the net proceeds would be necessary from the sale of your home? Do you know the principal balance of your mortgage? Here is where you find out when you ask them what the net proceeds need to be from their home, need to find out what they're thinking. How much money do they think? This is a giveaway about what they think their house ought to be worth and where they're coming from, even before you sit down and show them the net sheets. Do you know the principal balance of your mortgage? This question is in there for a purpose, not just to find out if they know. This is a talking point for you to be able to talk to the sellers and explain to them that the payment book that they get that says your balance is not always the payoff. So just because they know the balance from their payment book, they need to call their mortgage company and tell them, I need an amount from you so that if I sold my home and we closed within 60 days, what would be my payoff? There could be some prepayment penalties. There could be some things in there that they are not aware of if they close it. So we need a good payoff on that principal balance is what they're wanting to know. Okay, this is the slide you're going to go over that talks about where buyers found the home that they purchased. And this is in 2016, and these statistics were taken from the National Association of Realtors. They put it out in early 2017. 51% of the buyers found the home that they purchased on the internet. 33% found it through a real estate agent. Now, if you add those two numbers together, the internet and real estate agent was 84% of the buyers where they found the home that they purchased. That's pretty huge when you're sitting there with the seller to show them. The yard sign and open house, this used to be a whole lot more prominent. 8% of the people, a friend, relative, or neighbor, 4%. Home builder or other agent directly from the seller that knew them, 1%. Print newspaper or newspaper advertisement, 1%. So you can see that putting money into newspaper and print advertisement is only going to bring back a 1% return on my marketing money to market your home. I love the next two slides that we're going to talk about. This one, again, right now we're in pricing, so the factors that are going to influence the listing price of the seller's home. This is a circle, and you can just work your way around it in your listing presentation. Market conditions is at the top. Market conditions right now, and you can make them feel really good about this. They are better than they have ever been. I've been doing this for 30 years, never seen a better market for selling homes. The interest rates are low. Financing is easy. There's more financing, creative financing out there than there has ever been. Buyers, several different ways they can get in with no money down and no prepayment penalties, no closing costs. They can get all of those things paid. So an extremely creative market conditions for financing. Buyer demand, especially in the lower, I've told you before that it's just as easy to sell $400,000 and $500,000 homes as it is to sell the 1 and the 150. However, the 1 and the 150 homes add up and mount up to, like, I don't know if Laura's on here or not. She's heard this before, but Laura was telling me she wanted to have $1 million in marketing her first month, where she listed 9 houses. They were all around that $100,000 range, but they were $1 million in 9 days. So that was pretty good for her to have in the first 2 weeks, $1 million in listings if it was even 100,000. It's not any harder to sell 100,000 than it is a 400,000. Take any listing you can, because they're all going to be money in your pocket. And then as you talk around this, the motivation as a seller, when you need to get out of this home, it makes a difference, because when we put an offer in front of you, it's going to, you may say, I need this much money, but when you have an offer in your hand and you're looking at your pain versus your pleasure, you're being in Dallas with your husband, your 3 kids, out of school and starting up there, and all of you are family again, sometimes it's worth a little bit of an adjustment on that price for that. So your motivation does make a difference in this market. And then the terms that a seller offers. Are you going to pay closing costs? Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to owner finance some of it? Does the carpet need to be changed? Are you going to paint? Are you remodeling the kitchen? The property features. And here I want you to be sure and talk to them. This is structural integrity, architectural, the style, and the floor plan. That could be, for instance, there are certain markets that you can have all the bedrooms upstairs and people love that. This is not a market that's real conducive to that. So if you've got all the bedrooms upstairs, doesn't mean that it's worthless. It does mean that it's going to take a special buyer to buy that home, and there may have to be some market price adjustments because of that style and that floor plan. Then you may stand back, and some floor plans may look like, oh gosh, this is not the perfect floor plan, the 3 split bedroom, but I could make this a bedroom over here. So be creative. Look at what could happen. So when you're showing that home, you can be creative with that buyer and help them think through. Some rooms, when you walk into it, looks like it would be hard to place your furniture in there. So when you list that home, be sure that you be sure that I had a phone call in my ear, and I'll take that out right now on this little recording thing. Take that off. I'm not doing what I told y'all to do. Be on your one thing. So I'm back now. The terms that you offer as a seller, all the things that you're going to have ready for them, the closing costs. You're going to know all these things before you get it done, and we're going to talk a few minutes about the factors that have no impact. So exposure. Here's where you're going to talk to them about having their property ready. We talked about this earlier in one of the slides, that they need to be ready to have it shown at any time they call. Tell them how important that is. Talk to them about the ease of showing and what's going to happen when we call them. They need to be ready. This is going to happen with the showing report instructions that you're going to put in your file. So factors that have no impact on the current value of the home. It doesn't matter what they paid for it. They're going to come in here and go, and you want to cover this right now because you're going to have this conversation anyway. Well, I bought it in 2007. We all know what the market was like in 2007, and we empathize, sympathize. We feel sorry for them, or we want to work with them, but it still doesn't matter what they paid for it. It doesn't matter if they got a really good deal on it and they paid a whole lot less than market value, and some buyer goes in there and they know how to search the county records and they can tell that they got a really good deal. So they're going to go, they don't have to make this much. It doesn't matter what they paid for it. What matters is what the market says that the property is worth. And then some of the investments that they have made, only some of those are they going to get their money back. There's a lot of investments that we do that are strictly emotional. Does that help sell the house? Yes. If you put all fresh paint in there, you're not going to get an appraiser. It's not going to give you a lot of return on your investment for doing that. But emotionally, that buyer is going to come in and see, oh, this fresh paint, it's neutral colors. I can do all these neat things with it. I don't have to come in and with a paintbrush and paint and fix up. So it's going to be emotional if they're comparing it to another house. If you likewise remodel your bathroom, you remodel your kitchen, you add granite, you add hardwood floors, these kind of things, upgrade the landscape, all of these kind of things are going to bring money back, and your investment's going to come back to you on those. The third thing on there is what you want to net from the sale of your property. That really doesn't matter. We can only do what market value is and what you owe on your property. We can't fix that. So what you want to net. These are one of the reasons that contractually you might come together. If they say, I have to make this amount of money or I'm not going to sell my home, then you can go back to, then I can't take your home. Unless you agree that you can put a sign in the yard and you can get buyers from it, understand that you're going to have this conversation with them. It's on the high end, and this is what the market is, and we're not going to get offers at this price range. If you want to put it there, we'll put it there maybe for 2 weeks, see what happens. And I would suggest even if you do something like that, at this point, you go ahead and fill out a price adjustment listing addendum and adjust the price in 2 weeks or at least in 30 days and have them go in and sign it, that they agree to get it down to market value. The other thing that doesn't have an influence are what family and friends and neighbors say. A lot of times they don't understand that the neighbor's house sold for, $85 a square foot, and you think yours is worth more than that. Maybe it is. Maybe the neighbor's house was 3,000 square foot and yours is 2,500. 3,000 is overbuilt for the neighborhood. The smaller house in the neighborhood is going to get more price per square foot. So you can't go by what the neighbor's home sold for. As talking about price, this is the pricing pyramid, and this slide has been around forever and ever and ever. I've told a lot of you this in coaching. It just goes back to the market value. So as the market value changes throughout our market conditions, this stays the same. So if market value is in the center, and when we list at market value, we're going to pull 60% of the buyers out there. If you see on the right, this is where it's going to cue you into that, the percent of potential buyers who will look at the property, 60% at market value. People say a lot of times, couldn't we list it just above market value? And if we list it just above market value, then I'll have room to negotiate. Well, are you willing to go 30% less? Because at 10% above, you only get 30% of the buyers statistically that are going to look at your property when it comes on the market. 15%, and that's not a whole lot. 15% above market value, only 10%. And if you will look, what we've told you market value, only 10% below market value is 75%. 15% below market value, we're going to get 90% of potential buyers who are looking for property to look at your property. It's crucial that we get your property priced at market value. We all know that the first 30 days are critical. You can see the little guide over here. Again, this is a great reason for you to get your home priced right. A property generates the most interest when it first hits the market. The number of showings are the greatest during this time. You all know that if you've ever had a new listing and you put it on the market and you know it's priced right, and Amethyst took one today and she's on here, and I think she's already got 2 showings and it just went live today on that property. It's priced right, and so she'll probably have an offer. It's $150,000. We know those are pretty hot right now. If you get them priced right, you're going to get showings and you're going to get offers. The number of showings are the greatest. Starting too high and dropping to a price later misses the excitement and fails to generate that strong activity. So you can go back here to the people that want to start higher, and you talked about your price on your addendum to drop it. If they do that, they could consider that starting too high and dropping the price 30 days from now, they're going to miss that excitement. Many homes that start high end up selling below market value. Then this slide is where you're going to pull out all of your marketing and homework that you've done. As you go through this first, you're going to talk to them about prices. A market analysis that we're doing for you are going to consider prices paid for the recently sold. This, I like to call this fantasy land and reality. The solds are reality, the currents are fantasy land. And then the expireds are the ones that just didn't listen to their agents and they listed in fantasy land and they sold the other people's homes. They were not willing to look at today's market. The recently sold, that's what the appraisers are going to look at. They're going to go back 90 days first. If they can't find anything, then they're going to go back probably 180 days, sometimes a year. I had a house that I just did not think, we had it on the high end, and I think I've told some of you about this before when I was listing it. It was so cute. And it was in the low 100, I think 130,000. Just there was no comps for it, but it looked like a $400,000 house had puked out this little $130,000 house, completely decorated to the top. I mean, just beautiful. And who knows? I told them we weren't going to get this, but it looked like it should be priced there because everything about it was perfect. And that appraiser went back a year on comps and pulled it in and got that price for that house. So with that said, I want you to be sure that you tell them you are not an appraiser. You don't know. You're pulling the comps from what the market has shown. And according to the comps, this is what it is. Sometimes it goes the other direction. Sometimes you don't even get what you think it should be, and it looks like market value. We've had a lot of them lately that are coming in thousands of dollars below what the market looks like. And that's for another conversation. But this is how you explain this. You want to talk about the solds, that's important to the appraiser. You talk about the currents on the market. Those are the ones that are currently listed. That's their competition. That's why they have to be within market value. And then the expireds. I don't always take the expireds. If you do take the expireds a little bit later, I'm going to show you how to pull the grid and change it. On the expireds, I would set up a grid where you definitely want to show days on market. You can show that not 180 days. This one's been on the market 400 days. It was listed where you're thinking you want to list yours. It's crucial if you've got someone that thinks it needs to be listed high, that you can show them what's happening in that market in their neighborhood. And then that's where you pause, you pull all that stuff out, and you move to your homework. These are the things that you found in your research. Be sure you've done the homework. I've had so many agents that the most important thing they think about, and we tell you that is lead gen, and they get all these appointments, and then they don't take the time to go in and do the homework and do a great presentation and have that clarity. Clarity gives you power. You need to know and be able to understand and help them comprehend what you're talking about. Have you set your search grids? We're going to talk about that. Is your search criteria the same? So when I pull currents and when I pull solds, and I'll show you this in a few minutes, I use the same search criteria for both of them. And I point that out to the sellers as I'm showing them the property value. I don't want them to think that I use one criteria to pull solds and one criteria to pull the currents. I want them to see that it's all congruent, that everything works together. So for instance, if you were going to had a house that had 1,800 square foot, you may go 1,500 to 2,000 square foot and search everything current in there. I start the least criteria that you can put in there to start with, the better off you are. You can go down, see how many. First, I search square footage, I search subdivision. I want to know what's in the subdivision. And then after I search the subdivision and the square footage, I may put the age in there. So those are the three things that I start with. I like to look. If there's nothing in the subdivision, then you want to go out into the city, unless you're searching land or things that's got acreage, and then you're going to use county. So study the comparable properties before you go in there. The seller you are meeting should be able to understand how you came to the value. So you need to be able to explain that to them. This was one that I put on there and I couldn't get it straight. This is one when Rod taught Ignite. And this just shows you, I told some of you today, and I tried to straighten it up as we were going, but this is the print off from the MLS. So you see the search criteria. When you're printing this, I would show that search criteria and what it needs to be. So this says status sold. You can see it's in there as you, this is a talking point. If you use the quick CMA, then be sure you can talk through that. So you see down here, there were 9 properties. So he numbered the 9 properties. Number 1 was a few upgrades, no garage. Number 2 was the same with no garage. Number 3, not many upgrades, detached garage. So, and also if you can look up here where it says list price per heated square foot, you can see how that starts at $85.64, and then the closed price, and then the list price. So you're going to set your grids up and then the heated square foot. Then you can sort those by whichever one that you're going to use as far as being able to talk through this work right here. Always take a net sheet. I usually take 3, a high, an average, and a low. And then I want to walk through this really quick on this net sheet. This is what you're going to have. So when you pull this up, and Brandy stayed really close to where we were on this one that we were explaining. At the very top in little, you can see it says price per square foot. That's for you. I just put that in there. It's not going to adjust itself. You're going to stick that price per square foot in there. So when this is one of your talking points. If you sort price per square foot, then you definitely want to be able to talk about price per square foot and show them where it came from. So if you take 2 or 3 in here, this is going to tell you this one was at 80, this one was at 85, and this one was at 87. So you'll be able to know where you were on the prices. The next thing is the sales price. So let's just say that you're going on a listing presentation. Then in here, you may a high and a low and an average. You're going to take 3 of those and change the sale price according to the price per square foot. If they have an offer, then this sales price is going to be according to whatever the offer price was. And then you're going to look at the contract and you're going to take the rest of the stuff from the contract, what they're asking you to pay. Okay, the next thing is it automatically figures your commission. There is no extra commission in there. And then title insurance, you're going to base that. Ours, now we have fixed it so you don't have to have a sheet. If you're using Liberty Title, that's what we use because I had everything. Then you can plug Liberty Title in there. If you're using another title company, then you need to get a rate sheet and see what they're going to be charging on their title insurance. The things you want to look at on a title insurance are combo title, mortgagee, and an owner policy. You want to know what they're going to be charging for those 3. The mortgagee policy is if that's what the lender is going to ask the buyer to provide them to have coverage on that for their note. The seller is the owner's policy, and then the combo is when they split that policy. So the common market right now is for them to split. When you would have asked the seller to pay for it in this market, the most common, now you can do anything you want to, whatever the buyers and whatever the sellers want to do. But the most common would be if they owned it or they were paying cash for it, then they would ask the seller to provide if they weren't paying that. The next little field is the courier fees and the tax prorated and revenue stamps. So the courier fees and those things are added into, oops, I skipped after title insurance. I skipped the termite policy, and that's really important. I have that highlighted in yellow, and one of the reasons I have $150 in there is because our contract asked for a letter of clearance. It doesn't ask for a termite policy. It says to the seller to give them termite clearance letter for 1 year. So let's just say that they just renewed their termite policy and they paid $350 to get them to come out and check it, and it's renewed. That doesn't necessarily mean anything. They need to check with their termite company because 9 times out of 10, even though they've paid that, they're going to charge them a fee for clearance letter. So they need to make a call to their termite company and find out exactly what this is going to be. If there is a policy on it and if there are no other charges, then there's still going to be an estimated fee for a clearance letter. If not, then you've just got a little bit of padding in there. The tax prorated, you can fill this in or not fill it in. And actually, I leave this as a talking point. And with the taxes that are prorated, I just go back and tell them that in Arkansas, we pay our taxes in arrears. I ask them if their taxes are paid within their house payment. And if they're paid within their house payment, then they're going to have an escrow account that's going to be able to pay this off at closing. If not, if they've got 20% equity plus in there, they may choose to pay their taxes annually. And so then you'll have to see if it's been paid. And if it hasn't been paid, and this is 2017 in November, and you're having a closing and you haven't paid those, they're going to charge the seller all of 2016. They're going to prorate all of 2017 up until closing date. So they're going to have quite a bit of taxes that they're going to have to pay. This is important that you have this conversation with them when you're sitting there. Revenue stamps are going to be figured automatically for you. Closing fee with them is $350. And the rest of these things down here through the bottom, if you've got a contract, you can fill out the warranty, buyer's closing cost. You'll take it straight off of there. Also, it's a little bit different on the new ones that we did. The loan payoff is at the top. It figures that in. So if you know their payoff, you can put this in here, and it's going to change all of the net proceeds at the bottom. You know, what they're going to net, what it's going to cost them. That's their closing cost. And then without the payoff in there, $148,843 is going to be their net proceeds. Here's an example of what the new one looks like. So you can sort of see that it's just a little bit different. It still says at the bottom, the little caveat, please keep in mind these net proceeds are estimated. I was telling John today, and he's on the webinar, that very seldom do we miss these costs. The two places that you want to be aware where you could miss it might be the taxes, where we just talked about if there's a problem in there. And the other place is their loan payoff. Those are two critical places that you want to make sure you have a conversation, that you've got good totals. And if they give you different totals and you don't want to pull it up while you're there, tell them you'll email them a current settlement statement with, a net sheet with the things that they have given you at the listing appointment. And they're going to be okay with that. So here's an example of the low, the mid, and the high. And then you can see at the bottom, the instructions are on there, all three comparisons, and you've got the high and you've got the title company. There's a tab in there. So you can go in if you want to compare your title company and you want to change, any of these fields can be changed. So if you've got a sheet from the title company that you're using, then you can go in and compare the cost that's on this title company. If you don't know what title company, then use this one. You've got something plugged in there and they'll stand behind that price. So if they pick another title company and you miss it, just be sure to tell them the one that you had on here, they're welcome to use, and this is the price. So if they want to pay more, they can go wherever they want to. That's their decision. After coming to an understanding on the price, you move on to the marketing of your presentation. So we've already been through asking them questions about their motivation, where they're going to move, and we've talked about price, and we've come to that understanding. We've presented the contracts and showed them what we're going to do. So now we're going to move to your marketing. So here we're going to talk about open house, and this is really funny. We had some decisions and some talking today about open houses, and I told everybody in the coaching group that holding an open house used to be, I was the queen of I don't do open houses. The market has totally changed. There's lots of people that are using mega open houses and open houses, I would say not below a 5, as a system that's building their business to great incomes for them. So this just talks about the different levels. If you want to read through here and you want to use this, if not, if you just want to generally talk about open houses and how you do them, I have attached the top 10 traffic boosters. So you can go over that and say, these are things that when I do your open house, these are things that are going to make a difference in whether we have a lot of people or not too many people. We're going to put out X amount of directional signs. You know, with my team, I said, let's put out a minimum of 25 directional signs, and you will definitely be able to tell the difference when you put one sign up in front of the house or you put 25 directional signs out. You're going to have a lot more people come through. Talk to them about inviting the neighbors. We do this on Mega. This is the things that we talk about on your Mega open houses. Notify the buyer leads that you've got that's in your database. Internet postings, you're going to do social media postings. Video announcement is going to be on social media. Then targeted Facebook ads you can do. All of these things. And one of the things I might suggest in your listing presentation is that whatever you're doing, if you're doing these live videos, then take that video and put it in your listing presentation, just little bits of it, and show them what you actually have done and give them some results from a live Mega open house that you've had. The 10th one down, well, drawings and giveaways, and the 10th one down there was a sign spinner, and that's sort of a funny one, but you know, if you're trying to draw attention, you could go and have a sign company make one big sign spinner, just a big sign that says open house with your logo or whatever you want on it today from 2 to 5. whatever you want to decide, and hire a teenager. My grandson said he would get out there and do it for me. Pay him $20 for a couple of hours to stand out there and have candy or wave at the people. When I think about sign spinners, I always think about that tax lady, Liberty Tax or something, with that crown on her head, and she got my attention. I'm sure some of you on this have seen that and you know what I'm talking about. So that could be sort of a fun thing, and it would draw attention. This slide is in there on purpose. I'm still talking about the open house and holding it by design. We're not going to do an open house just to have it open to satisfy you. We're doing an open house to try to find buyers to buy your home. One of the things we said, we were going to have a drawing. So this is what the people that come through, in order to enter the drawing, they have to fill out this information for us. So their name and address goes at the top. If they're a buyer, if they're a seller, they're going to answer these questions we ask them. How soon do you have to be there? 1 month, 3 months, or longer? We're going to know if they're really interested when they come through that. Another thing that we always do on an open house is we have a sign. So you can see the table back there is set up with all the brochures, it's set up with our giveaways and the things that we're going to talk about, the information about your house. We have a lender that's there in the center that we use that knows what is familiar with mega open houses. Again, guys, you can have your lender, you can sit down and talk with them and say, would you be willing to help sponsor a mega open house? I'd like you to be there. Any leads that come off of that, then they're going to get access to those leads too, and they can help you work them. They can help you get pre-qualified. Whether the people want to use them or not is the same as they want to use you. So that sign, the other thing is welcome, please come in. We have that there because we're going to tell everybody per the seller's request, they're asking you to please sign in. And so we're going to get signatures. They're going to fill this out or they're not going to be included in the draw-in. So it can be on this table, also on the front door. Before they ever come in, they're going to see per seller's request, please sign in. Then we're going to get into the marketing. So this is what I do for marketing. Again, I've got the 10 traffic boosters. We talk about the mega open house. I would probably turn to them because you've already talked about it and said, here you see the mega. Do you have any questions about why we do this or what we're going to do? And would you like to see that happen at your house? And then the video marketing. If you want to play a little bit of this doesn't have to be this. If you don't know how to embed, we can show you how to embed a video. If you want to put one of your houses up there, that's great. If you leave this one in there and tell them they have any friends that would like to come in and stay in this cute little home, you can show it to them and they're going to go, oh, and I'm going to appreciate it because we're going to put that on Airbnb and they'll be dealing with us and we're going to lease that out through Airbnb. So, might have some little incentives in there for the agents that are helping me market that. If you want to take it out and use yours, totally okay. Make this presentation yours. And then extended marketing research over on the side, you can see those are the different places. And if you were in coaching today, you heard John say that over 300, we talked about how it hits the MLS, and then he said it hits Keller Williams. That's called KWLS, Keller Williams Listing Service. And it says here that over 350 of the most popular search varieties are in there that it's going to automatically take these houses to. And then I want you to see up there at the very top where it says rapid response. That's extremely important that we talk about that because it's going to be important to you that I'm the person, my team, or I'm the person that gets this phone call on your property because I know more about it. By putting you in all of these places, I'm going to be notified through Keller Williams by text and by email when anyone goes on to the website. And remember, we said that 53% of the people came through the internet last year that found the house that they purchased. Now, today I told you that it was 92% started their search, but we're talking about 53% found the home that they purchased on the internet. So we're getting your house out there on the internet. This rapid response, we have found that the first agent to respond is who they work with. And so with this coming in within seconds, we're going to be responding, not just automatically. We're going to pick up the phone and we're going to call these people back, see if we can get them in your home. And then I want you to see down at the very bottom, it talks about our KW mobile app. This is absolutely awesome. And then you tell them what I'd like to do right now because I understand you're going to be looking for a home. I'm going to share this app with you while we sit here. Have them pull out their phone, share that app that's branded to you, have them open it, and then show them the different things that they can do with that app. When it says, because it's going to be branded to you, Say, if you have a friend that's looking for property and if they've been using Zillow, we know lots of people use Zillow, and there's not anything wrong with all these search engines. You can see that we market to those. But the thing is they're not real accurate because they're not pulling things up like our app does. Every time something goes in, this is constantly updating. So anytime you're out looking for a property, then you go through and you explain that app to them and you show them where they can share just like you shared that with them. All they have to do is hit that share button. Have them touch that share button so you can share this with your friend by text, by email, Facebook. You can share this with anyone. And they're going to love the app. Very user-friendly. So if you're driving through a neighborhood, yes, John is saying this is a different one from the one I got last time. And this picture does look a little bit different. I took that off of Keller Mortgage, and that's probably a good point for us to point out that we might want to change that the way that looks. It does look just a little bit different on there. Thank you for that, John. But what you're going to do is explain to them. So show them how they can share that app, and then tell them that when they're driving around, they can search local in the area. They can push that button and everything around them that's listed is going to pop up. So whether it has a sign in the yard, if it's listed and they don't let them put it on the marketing part, or if it's coming soon and hadn't got a yard sign out there, it's going to show and they're going to be able to get information, and it's going to be tied back to you, and all they've got to do is send a request to you and you're going to get everything set up for them. The professional photos is right under that. Not only are you going to do videos, when we talked about that a few minutes ago, but I'm going to have a professional photographer come out and take videos, because we have found that the number one thing that people look at on the internet when they're searching for a home are the photos. That is the number one thing. So it's important to me that we have professional photos. If you're not going to pay for a professional photographer to do these, then I would suggest that you take that out. John says I'm cutting out. Thumbs up. We don't have a whole lot longer. Can you still hear me? Am I cutting out with everyone else? John, it looks like I've got full internet. I'm still at the office with doing this, so it may be, I don't know if it's where you are or not. Okay, Michelle says it's good. Thank you for that. On the left-hand side, then you put your website. You're going to have domains that you've bought. So if you go to marcellahagen.com, it's going to take you to my leadership website. That's just on there. So please don't leave that on yours. And then kellerwilliams.com. If you've got, like I had hagenteam.com on there. If you've got bethplumley.com, put it on there and explain to them that that's your website that they can go to, and they can also search homes on it if they're not on their mobile. Then the next thing down there talks about their seller property disclosure. This is where you're going to pull that out. If they've already had it ahead of time in your pre-listing packet, you can ask for it here, but explain to them that you need for them to go through. What I usually do if they've not filled this out is I'll come back and get it so they don't feel pressured to fill it out right then. Or we had a suggestion, Mark suggested, or somebody did today when we were in our coaching and doing pre-listings, doing listing presentations. They suggested that we might want to hand this to them in place of the seller survey or with the seller survey while we walk through the home, and then give them a few minutes to fill it out. What I'm finding most of the time is the pre-listing package is better, or you do it at the end because they're waiting on you to tell them how much money they can make and what you're going to say in the listing presentation more than they are filling out that seller's. And it becomes a little overwhelming with a lot of questions to answer at that point. Then you'll notice in the center, we've got the MLS, and you talk about what you're going to do to get in the MLS and the different things. The other thing is the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, and I'll refer back and say, remember when the slide that talked to you about where buyers found the home that they purchased, and it said less than 1% was through print or marketing material? That's why I personally do not market in the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, is that 1%. Because I understand from what we talked about before that you want me to get your home sold in the least amount of time, making you the most money with the least amount of stress. So I'm going to spend that marketing money in the percentages of the places. The top two places was internet marketing and with other agents, real estate agents. So I'm going to market to other real estate agents. And with that said, I may not be the person that sells your home, because my number one marketing person is to another agent other than the internet. And then over at the right, underneath where you talked about extended market, talk to them about showing time. You've already gone over it. So this This is the company that we use where we talked about marketing and your home being ready to show. They're going to call you and ask if you can show it. They're going to have the notes that I put in there that says, yes, John and Sue Smith are willing to show their home. If you call and they don't answer, show anyway. Or they must be contacted, send a text, show anyway. Be specific, because the showing time, the people that work there are only going to do what you tell them to do. These next statistics are from Keller Williams and what's happened in the first 6 months with our Keller Williams as a nation versus NAR. NAR is it's National Association of Realtors, so it's everybody, it's everyone out there. All brands are going to be included in this versus Keller Williams. So you can see that we are at the top of that. And I'm not going to run through these for lack of time. Some of you that are on there, if we need to later, we will do that. Here it is here where it says Keller Williams. This talks about how many associates were in there. And then you've got these slides, so you go over this. This is where they outpace the industry on transaction growth. NAR 1.6 and Keller Williams at 9.9. Guys, these are really, really important. Q2 277 as far as transactions. Keller Williams had 305. The next slide is the industry on closed volume. You can see that Keller Williams was 15.3 and that NAR was 6.7. This is the slide that I told you that I had added in there. And this just says outpaces the industry year to date. This is a review of what happened, and this is exactly what we just went over. So if you want to take those other slides out and you just want to use something like this, this is in there for you to pull out and just use this one instead of all that background and everything and going through it. So you can just say 166,385 global associates, a net gain of 10,508, NAR 2.9. This gives you everything except it's not grafted on there. Again, use what feels really good to you. I put this at the end. This is my credentials, and we've talked about a lot of you have gone up against teams. I'm doing everything for you guys, pretty much everything that I did for my team. We're having weekly meetings at coaching meetings. Hopefully you're showing up for that. We have had lead gen that we're together. We have got systems that you're using, the listing presentation that I've had for you, buyer consultation that we've got for you. So if you want to say my team lead is Marcella Hagan, she is also our productivity coach. We have a team that we've put together, and these are her credentials. So this is who I'm accountable to. However you want to say, whatever you want to say, or you're welcome to take that out. It's PowerPoint. If you want me to save, I did save a PDF. It's in there. Any of these slides that you want out to a certain extent, I'll work with you and try to help you put that together. Okay, it is 6:30. So I'm going to stop now and we'll start. I didn't get the plan ahead. It makes the difference. I'm going to talk about what you find out at the county and how you compare your price per square foot. Also, I'm going to use the MLS grid and putting that together. So we'll just do that next week. You guys have a great evening. Do we have any questions? I've got some people in the chat. Michelle, I see your little sweet smiley faces with your hearts on there. So I am going to check. There you go, Lisa. Let me check if we've got anything in the chat that I need to answer. Michelle said, good. I have no questions. Does anybody have a question they want to type up there before I sign off? I hope it was helpful. Thank you guys for spending the evening or part of your evening with me. I will see you the next time. I have one-on-ones tomorrow. If you're involved in that, I need your prep sheet. Otherwise, I will see you guys on Thursday, and we'll have lead gen and some personal time if you need it. We sat there. I think people like that. So I will see you in Bentonville on Thursday at 8:30. Signing off.